in picking first pick are going to have Team Freedom have the Battleground choice, and to nobody's surprise, one of their favorites, especially with Sky being banned, we're going to go to Towers of Doom.
It's one of their favorites, but Team 12 more than okay with that. They're 3-1 on this Battleground themselves. So it's going to be a good game, I think, between both of these teams. And again, the draft-wise, I don't think was that bad on the side of Team 12. Don't get me wrong. I think it was just good execution from Team Freedom once they got ahead. But now we turn our eyes towards Towers of Doom, where more macro-focused play is heavily in favor. You know, the Dahaka has kind of been a high priority for a lot of teams on this for the early camp invades, making use of that global. But I wonder if Malthael might come in, and I don't know if I've seen too much Diva on this, but Nasmus himself.
It's Nasmus.
Yeah, it's Nasmus, so you never know.
Yeah, there's a level 1 talent that lets you try to boost all the way around, sort of like the new On a Pale Horse, maybe. We'll see if we get that from Diva, or get a Diva at all. But as we look at Towers of Doom, like you said, a favorite battleground for both Team 12. They've started picking up in this part. Team Freedom has liked it for longer, and when you have both teams who are used to picking this map, there's going to be some adjustment for a team who has to switch over to being in the first pick position instead of the more comfortable, more known second pick position within the draft. Something to keep in mind for Team 12. Team Freedom's been playing a fair amount of globals here. Team 12, last time we saw them versus Heroes Hearth, they played more of the Medivh, Ragnaros, kind of sticking together, trying to be able to execute in team fights, and they got kind of picked apart by Heroes Hearth with those globals. So we'll see if they're allowed, or if they change things up because of that.
Things are changing up quickly here as Dahaka was banned out by Team Freedom, taking that global out of there, and then Team 12 forcing the decision, do you want the Hanzo? Now with Team Freedom, Genji is still available.
It is, and it is the most potent pick for Lutano. Genji's up, Greymane's up too, Uther available with either of those. With the Dahaka and Abathur ban, globals are kind of a hot commodity now too. Something for both teams to keep in mind, and Team Freedom only gets 2 picks before a long time and they get any more.
I think Uther Uther Genji has to be considered here, else you potentially give up the Uther or Tyrael potentially over to the other side, and we know those are high priority picks for Team 12, or the pairing with Hanzo getting that Uther. So there is some consideration if you're on the side of Freedom. Are you willing to commit to a Genji Uther, which shows your hand quite a bit and then opens up some potential counters? They get the Genji, they go Malthael instead, letting the Uther through.
So the OG on a Pale Horse. Seems fair, especially having Dahaka banned, because we have seen a lot of teams focusing on being willing to bring everything, anything and everything, to the bot sapper camps right at the beginning. We're talking Dahaka stocks, we're talking in Malthael with On a Pale Horse. So for Team Freedom in banning Dahaka, it's nice to see that they've really isolated within that role and taken Malthael, who, as you said, J-How, doing very well in North America.
Doing very well. Again, just sitting shy of 70% win rate in 32 games. So definitely a strong showing so far for Malthael. Now, with Team 12, Uther has actually been one of Buds' most played heroes, Gilly, but the success hasn't quite been there, as he's sitting at 20% win rate, so he's only won 1 out of those 5 games. It's a good pairing, as we've seen across most regions with the Hanzo, but is there maybe some mental aspect of that that makes you don't want to go that route?
Well, they have Tyrael, who sort of can provide, I mean, he does provide the same kind of invulnerability, just more in the sanctification route. So I'm wondering if now we see Team 12 ban Uther and then pick one of the supports that have been doing better for Buds. Maybe a Lucio here because of the Malthael, though if I'm remembering correctly, win rate-wise, Lucio's not actually doing that well versus Malthael, but with a 70% win rate in North America, nothing seems to be doing that well versus Malthael.
Not too well at all. The ETC Tyrael pickup, as we've seen before, a lot of teams will use that Tyrael to be the solo laner in the early part of the game, and then post 10, potentially stage dive. And then you kind of have ETC play that solo laner. However, there's no real counters in terms of Mosh interrupts so far between Genji and Malthael, so could see some potential counters coming in the draft, but I think Team 12 would be okay with that because they're probably predicting stage dive and can draft accordingly and play accordingly with this draft early.
Yeah, it's at least something that Team Freedom has to keep in mind for the rest of the draft now, seeing that ETC so early, and it might cause some slight adjustments for them there. Team 12 are indeed thinking about that Uther ban, and then that leaves open Buds. Everything else has a really good win rate. Not Ana, but there's only been the one Ana game. But otherwise, Stukov, Malfurion, Lucio, Karzian, these things are all doing very well. And Team 12, it's interesting that they are still willing to do this Uther ban, though, considering that Team Freedom kind of took advantage of that. If they know that Team Freedom or Team 12 didn't want that Uther, they're also going to take another support. And Freedom are the ones who get to choose first.
The scary part is that Uther with potentially Malthael or Genji is pretty terrifying. So I think it's just one of those things like, look, the risk is way too high of what you could potentially get out of one of those combos. So,
but Freedom knew that, and it's kind of cool to see them punish that a bit.
I like it. I like it. So with that, you know, we've seen a lot of Karazim play on the side of Team Freedom. But again, going against the ETC, getting potentially block party if you need it. But just going there, the potential mosh, you don't have the same type of interrupt. The cleansing touch doesn't come until 16. And oh, by the way, that actually puts you in melee range. You can uncleanse somebody else, but you get yourself caught in the mosh. So a little bit scary to go that route.
Malthael Lucio. 9 out of 9 games.
Not bad.
A 100% win rate in NA, EU, and Korea when these two are played. Mostly in North America, because NA are the biggest purveyors of Malthael games.
Big time. They've actually had more than, I think, right around 50% of the games played between the 3 regions, between Europe, Korea, and North America. They have 32 of, I think, right around 65. So definitely quite a bit of games there for Malthael here in North America. So with the Lucio and the Tychus pick, you get a collusion favorite in Lucio, and you also have the interrupt in the grenade from Tychus. So you have double interrupts, the potential boop there, as well as the grenade. One thing that always comes to mind is the Odin. The Odin is always very appealing, but it goes back to Infernal Shrines last year when it was like kind of the counter, right? But the minute Odin comes out, he doesn't have a grenade anymore. So that does open the door for a potential mosh pit, and then Lucio obviously having that extra boop is kind of one of the limited ones at the moment. So mosh pit still on the table.
It's scary. You can rely on it, but it's still scary. If that positioning is weird where you just slide right on into the mosh, you are not a happy camper. So maybe we'll see a Zugrug hero who can offer another way of being able to interrupt. Maybe a Stormbolt as a Muradin, or anything else you think as possible for Zugrug here?
I mean, I think Muradin's probably going to be the most likely. You could always just play it super safe and go down the Johanna route, but when you see this combination of a Hanzo, Greymane, ETC, Tyrael, I think Muradin's going to have a lot more survivability and a lot more control with getting the attack speed slow. Outside shot, you just go Arthas to play it super safe against this composition and rely on your own Icebound Fortitude, your own self-healing, as well as Lucio's passive healing.
And Muradin is Zugrug's most played. Just looking at what else we've seen a lot from him. There's been a fair amount of a new Barak. I don't think he's going to want to go into that, though.
Yeah, the Anubarak into this composition, not so great.
It's going to be really
just
rough.
Go Stitches again.
Back
Interesting.
to Stitches.
I did not expect that one. Coming into this weekend, he had not played Stitches yet. I mean, it's not out of his wheelhouse, but this composition, probably not as high probability, I would say, that I would venture to guess. Genji going one way, Stitches pulling somebody the other. You can still set up quite a bit, obviously, with their composition, but...
Do you think it's the same thing? It's a Gorge usage versus Tyrael? Or are we going to see a Bile slow down with the good old Dragon Blade, Tormented Souls?
Sanctification, though.
Yeah, that's true. You've got to kind of space those out.
It does give you a bullseye. However, if Sanctification is forced to be used first, you're like, well, I know where everybody's grouping. I'm just going to press R here. And then Genji's like, well, everybody's grouped, so I'm going to get max value. So there's always that thing. If you can force that one out before the other, then it's a big win. The other way, it's just kind of like, all right, they countered.
Well, there's no globals for either side unless we get a stage dive from ETC. We'll see if that is the case. But otherwise, we're looking at a good old-fashioned showdown between these teams as they battle it out for the altars. Hanzo will be able to do a lot, as we've seen quite a bit, in making sure that they are picking up, even Greymane too, and picking up those sapper camps, trying to get the bot lane control, maybe the top. But Freedom have a lot of these mobile heroes who can try to look for ganks between the Genji and the Lucio.
As you had mentioned before, Pale Horse was picked up from Malthael, so will we see Freedom with the early rotations? And it's not necessarily their MO, right? They just don't normally... We don't see them as the invade team. You kind of start thinking about tempo. You start thinking about simplicity, things like that. So see if they're willing to kind of flip the script a little bit here in the early game.
Yeah, it does feel like Freedom are more like, I'll stay on our side, you stay on your side, but we're going to out-macro you if that's the case. And that was why it was so cool yesterday, guys, to see Space Station be like, but what if we are also on your side and we take all of your camps? And Team Freedom were like, well, okay. I guess that's happening.
It's happening.
It was a really cool series, and it was great to see for Space Station, but it's also awesome to see how Team Freedom has been able to get right back onto that, get back on the saddle, you know? On a pale horse, they're back at the saddle. They played very well, very clean game 1, and I expect nothing less here in game 2. I was proud of that one.
Worked on it all morning.
I did.
Well, right on time here, 1 minute as they come in. Kieran team, they're going to go ahead and start theirs, and this kind of opens the door for potentially them rotating over. ETC has a hard time in the solo lane, so him rotating down early, and if you don't get any value, you don't get the kill, you don't steal the camp, the value of it is much slimmer. And they're actually using that on a pale horse. You can just watch the mini-map as Malthael is rotating up and down. He's going to win that top lane so hard that he has time to do this, allowing the rest of his team to just kind of flex around and let Lutano look for opportunities there on Genji.
Yeah, and that is nice, especially because it does take them a little bit longer to get their own Sapper camp. Lutano there with Cure. Cure, last second, gets a nice healing pathogen from Buds to keep him alive. The Sappers do a fair amount of damage to this bottom lane in favor of Team 12, but Team Freedom are going to hope they can do the same now as they escort their camp forward.
And Justin's like, well, eventually I get poked down quite a bit, and this doesn't feel good, so I'm actually just going to go hide over here, because that's not cool. Cure, bio kill switch, just enough.
Buds, twice now, keeping Cure alive from the brink of death. As Team Freedom are hoping to get that first blood.
So far, no heavy invades. Malthael winning out in the top lane. Genji, of course, has been able to flex up, but I think this game right now, both teams just playing it super safe. They're going to wait for the first altar spawn, which will be here in just over 30 seconds. We'll get that warning here in just 1 second. And so once that kicks off, I think that's when we'll start to see this map open up a little bit in favor of one team or the other, because as it stands, it's just everybody just kind of casually playing, making sure to keep up with the lanes as best they can. Sappers are neutral. Everything else, pretty simple.
Watch to see where Genji goes here. You see that there is more of an amassing up toward the top for Team 12 as Greyman's up there. Ooh, that boop was pretty. Hanzo gets picked at the start of this, and Justin will too. Collusion feeling pretty good about those plays. The hooks were on point from Zugrug. Now Goku's going to head up, trying to steal away the altar. But unfortunately, Nasmus was still there, and so 2 of these will be channeled for Team Freedom.
And sometimes just that one pick opens up a whole world. And when you're Freedom, it opens up like an entire universe at this point. You're just like, look, I can do whatever I want, wherever I want, and I've earned it. And that's what Team Freedom will punish you on. They just continue to find ways to get these teams down. We see the top camp priority there for a second, but Team Freedom just instantly rotates down. They're going to steal the Sappers from Team 12. They've already opened up that gate. They'll escort these in because wave clear-wise, Team 12 doesn't have a ton of it just yet. And this is just a tough spot for Team 12 right now if they give this bell tower up.
Yeah, I love that Team Freedom got aggressive knowing that they were on the cusp of getting level 7. And especially after seeing the top lane too, they can surmise that one of the Merking heroes for Team 12 is going to be up there helping out ETC. That does help ETC keep back the pressure from Malthael, but it's letting Team Freedom start to get a little bit more and more presence here in the bottom lane. And Jay, how that bottom lane is pretty darn important here on Towers of Doom.
The Stukov factor, though. The Stukov factor silences Sappers.
It'll slow things down for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it kept their bell tower nice and healthy there, and they're just going to look to do it again. They do have level 7 now, so the scatter shot for Hanzo definitely working out.
Yeah, that cooldown reduction from the basic attacks, mana reduction too, will be a lot more prevalent, although we didn't see the serrated arrows. Maybe just feeling like between Greymane and Hanzo, they already had enough of a mercenary ability of taking those. ETC gets caught in the top lane between Malthael and Genji, and Team Freedom, for a second time in 2 ultra phases, has been able to get the catch. Oh, that silence is, well, that time it worked. But yeah, they're getting these picks right at the start of these objective phases. It's well done by Freedom.
they're not going to get there. That is 2 altars channeled, sending it to 36-24 in core health. Team 12, they're struggling to gain traction in these early games right now, Gilly.
That they are, and it's difficult, right? You've got ETC, who doesn't have his global yet. He's been chosen to be in that solo lane. You saw, and you talked about it, how pressured he's been in the top lane, and they have to be more vigilant about these potential picks. Lucio gives additional movement speed to his teammates. He's basically allowing Zugrug to just move around wherever he wants for picks. Lutano with that Genji is everywhere, assisting Nasmus a lot of times up in the top. Team 12 needs to be a little bit more vigilant, play safer to make sure that they're not losing people at these pivotal moments, because it's time for them to start fighting back over the objectives.
They are definitely going to have to do just that. And again, their initiation moments, when ETC is your solo laner, again, you miss out on that heavy initiation. They haven't been able to do much. I mean, for what it's worth, having a Lucio and a Tychus would push most of that back anyways. So for Team 12, they're really going to have to turn it up post 10 and really get ETC involved in a lot of these fights.
They're just about there. Heroics now online for Team Freedom. And we are seeing the Gorge yet again for Zugrug. Single altar spawning in the mid, and 1 Sapper camp is there around. But Team 12 will have heroic abilities to bring the fight to Team Freedom for this phase.
Again, there's only 2 interrupts. One is a boop and one is a grenade. Okay, it took him a second, but he is going to go a stage dive, make sure that they have the global. I think they definitely need to try and regain some battleground control, and that's going to give it to you. The big play potential of Mosh Pit not going to be here, though.
Yeah, in general, when you see ETC played by the side laner, it's almost always the stage dive, so that was a pretty good indication. There is the hook, the pick, the Gorge, sped away with Collusion and the Lucio. They'll poop him back with the Tormented Souls there too. The stage dive trying to stop him, but it just wasn't enough to stop them from getting that kill. Now Team Freedom have waited out through the Sanctification. Bud's falling low as he swipes away Team Freedom. Lutano chasing him down. He's
chasing him down. Goku, he's not going to make it out alive here. There's just absolutely no way. This is dominance right now. Team Freedom, they're just controlling everything about this game. The Stitches pick seems to be paying off in droves right now. They just isolate one hero. Tyrael couldn't get there in time. ETC couldn't get there in time. And the Dragon Arrow was nice, but they were already in such a tough position.
Yeah, losing your Greymane there, that's one of your 2 primary damage dealers. It's the job of the Tyrael and the ETC to try to keep those 2 alive. And what I love is that Team Freedom are showing a lot of different types of plays around the Stitches. They've really thought this out. Before last game, it was more about isolating away the Tyrael so that he couldn't give Sanctification for the team. That time, using this Lucio to speed away, so you have to go clear, or you get to go clear far away from the rest of the team, trying to separate you away from Sanctification, so it's not even a factor of being able to save. It's on Team 12 to try to figure out how to stop that, maybe an earlier stage dive, a Dragon's Arrow. They're going to get right back into the fight, though, J-How.
The stage dive coming in. Justin, though, already low. Collusion very far forward, trying to make plays happen, but Nasmus is pushing right in. Goku's going to go down as Lutano and team pushing in. They're looking for more.
Gets a Dansky kill just as the flailing swipe comes out for Buds. 2 kills for Team Freedom, and they've got sappers behind this, holding onto the bell towers, clearing out the wave, trying to escort this in for even more shots.
It's working out for them. They've got a hook. Buds, I don't think he gets away. Yeah.
Wow, Team Freedom. They don't even have something like an Uther. They're very reliant on making sure the synergy is there to follow up when a hook hits like that. And they weren't even quite in position, but the turnaround, the grenade. Lucio was there too. Lutano, quick draw, swift strike. Team Freedom, man.
I'll say this, Gilly. So, Team Freedom last night got roughed up by Space Station.
That's true.
And Space Station did the one thing that I thought would work against Team Freedom. Team Freedom's macro game is strong, really strong, solid players. But when the fight was brought to them, they struggled a bit. And Space Station, from the minute 1 of every game, remember the Curse game, I mean, they're invading Curse 1 minute into the game.
Right.
And Team Freedom struggled with that. Team 12 has had almost no initiation so far in these early parts of the games, and it's allowing Team Freedom to get a lead. And when they get a lead, they just control the entire game. Team 12 has to find a way to turn this around, and I think it starts with being aggressive.
Yeah, Team Freedom does seem to be maybe a little angry about yesterday, or at least they had a wake-up call. They got up early, They got their practice in. They're ready and raring to go because we're looking at 33-9 in the core health, and then all started with 2 picks right at the first altar phase, and Team Freedom has been unrelenting ever since.
Team 12 is going to find some way to get back into this game. It's going to be the boss. However, the Sappers are being picked up by Team Freedom in the bottom, which means they've got to get the boss, and they've got to back on out. They're not worried about trying to get the control back of that bottom lane. Instead, they're just going to run down and try and take, as I said, you can't necessarily path through the middle. That's a little bit too dangerous, so they're going to have to take the long way home.
Next phase is the triple altar phase, the 5th one, and Team Freedom have still 5 bell towers, 2 of these altars channeled. With them having this 2-level lead, they're going to get an early Towers of Doom victory unless Team 12 can figure out a way to stop it.
Stage dive in as Cure has been eaten there. We see Goku trying to isolate Tychus for the time being and instantly going over to the Sanctification. Tychus is going down, but he is alive for the moment.
He does stay alive, but this was much better for Team 12. They don't lose their Greymane, but they're just about to lose Goku. A bio kill switch and the healing pathogen keeps him alive, but it causes Buds to go down now too to the Dragon Blade. Team Freedom pull back out Buds, get a kill on the support. Altars activating in 10 seconds and not having their support until 20 seconds. This looks rough for Team 12.
It's super rough. Zugrug with another hook landed. He is causing headaches right now. Lutano, if he gets that, that's game.
They have to get over here. Oh, that smite was just about as last second as it could get, but they're not out of the woods yet. Team Freedom starting to head up. One has been channeled. Justin gets pulled in. No Sanctification now, as he gets taken out by the Swift Strike. Lutano, though, he is pretty low. So was Tychus. Cure executes Yoda.
Yeah, Cure's trying to stay alive. Buds is back up. He's close for the heals. All they have to do is hold on here. He's got the bio kill switch. It's going to spread, and then he's trying to get the heals, but the Gorge is going to be here as well. Yeah, Zugrug in trouble.
He's got Greymane in the back, inclusions there too. They don't even need one of the damage dealers, as you've got Lutano channeling. They will get it. Stage dive goes in the back. The fight raging everywhere as Team 12 does everything in their power to stop Team Freedom from ending the game right here, right now. But they lose 2. They lose Malthael, and they're going to lose Hanzo. Tyrael has just respawned, but that is Lutano on Genji.
Well, 14-2. Team Freedom has dominated these first 2 games, and a lot of it has been with Stitches. It's just like, look, the fight was brought to us a lot yesterday. Didn't feel good. So what if we just stay back and we bring the fight to ourselves and try and turn that? And so far, the Stitches seems to be the pivotal point of these first 2 games.
Yeah, it's a surprise. It's not like, I don't even, like you said, he hadn't played Stitches at all. We're week 4 now, their second match of week 4, and it's like, what if we just showed this incredible Stitches synergy that we've been able to hide this entire time? Team 12 has to find a way to be even somewhat aggressive. They've had 0 initiation, 0 pre-10 in either game, and they have not been able to get any traction, I think, because of that. And when we looked at Space Station yesterday, Space Station literally took the fight to them the entire game, and it made Team Freedom uncomfortable. Now Team Freedom, they're play back. The minute they get 1 to 2 kills between Tomb Towers of Doom, they just open the map up, and then they just kind of roll on to victory. It's been easy for them when they are in the lead. It's when they've had pressure against them is when they've struggled. Yeah, fire has clearly been lit under Team Freedom. We'll see if maybe the being down at 2 games, 2 losses to Team 12, 1 game away from losing the series is enough to light the fire underneath them. We're going to a break. As we come back, Game 3. See you soon.